we're not learning about grammar and commas and all these things just so that we can identify them.
Right.
We're learning about them so that we're using them properly when we communicate, when we write, when we speak. Well, the reason that we have drawing in there, number one, it's wonderful for handwriting. The hand-eye coordination is fantastic. It's a really good exercise for hand-eye coordination for those who struggle with their handwriting. There's all sorts of fantastic resources in the back. I highly recommend that you study them before you even begin the course.
It's almost like notebooking for words.
Yes. I would just keep track of the words that they're still struggling with and incorporate them into daily writing. So let's really learn how to write a good paragraph before.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic beginning to your week so far. Hey, today I have the privilege of being joined by Miss Kristen Pratt, who is my wife, who is frazzled at the moment because
It's Jessica McGregor's fault. That's what I'm gonna blame it on. She sent me a link and I started listening to something. Actually, the truth is I started packing for my scrapbook weekend and got a little distracted, but I was listening to the link Jessica sent me.
So we're here. I'm calm and steady.
Yeah, and I'm a mess. I don't even know what my hair's doing today. I think it's starting to curl or something. The only thing that I could do about it is throw a hat on it and hope for the best, but it's kind of like doing its own. I'm not sure what it's doing.
After chemotherapy, the hard ones, and your hair falls out, people say it comes back and it can do all kinds of things. It eventually goes back to the way it was, I guess. But I've heard it's curly. It's all.
I don't know what it's doing. Anyway.
So we're going to talk about language lessons for living education.
Yes.
It's exciting. You're finally done writing grades 1 through 6.
Yes.
2 years of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were joining us a couple days ago or a week ago when Brittany was asked if you would consider writing a junior high course, she just blasted out.
Yeah. She called everybody selfish and said she wanted her mom back. I don't think she was kidding.
Yeah, it was kind of just like, I don't even think she thought about it.
I do plan on doing the teaching companion.
Yes.
At some point.
And I think today Anna W. and I planned that you're going to write the next 2 in the writing strands. We need like a level above the advanced 1 and 2, and you would be good for that.
So, really?
Yeah. Okay. So, hey, everybody, let's talk. I've got some questions on language lessons for living education, and I think it'll give us a good lead in. We've got a fair amount of questions.
Sorry, I'm distracted by a fuzz on your collar.
Okay. Thank you for taking that off. So
it's going to be a good one today, folks.
Squirrel. Okay. So Caitlin Morris asked the question, can you give an overview of how the program is designed to be used?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we have level 6 here. I don't know if I have any other levels. No.
Not present. I
have level 6. Okay. So most of this level 6 isn't the best.
Which one do you need?
It's okay. It's all right. We'll use level 6.
Here's level 2.
So day 1 usually starts off with either a picture study or some sort of special feature. As in level 2, here's a picture study in level 2. Or it starts off with a story. In level 6, some of the lessons start with the work in the 10-minute Bible journey.
Okay.
In order to get through that, we couldn't just do the whole book in a year. We couldn't just put it on the 4th day. So there are some weeks scattered through the course where it actually, that first day. So in lieu of the reading, there's that 10-minute Bible journey activities.
Okay.
So sometimes, if we can find one, it's a poem, or it's a psalm, or a proverb, or something like that. So there's always a special feature that first day. Okay, here's one. That's what I'm looking for. Here's a psalm. So sometimes the first day of the week is a psalm or a poem. It adds variety. It's laid out consistently. So every, I forget how exactly it is, but like every, say, first day, sorry.
I got distracted because Ted
I know.
said we're
I'm
coordinating.
like, what are you looking at? He's distracting me. And I had a chemo week, so my mind doesn't work quickly.
We didn't coordinate on purpose.
Yeah, so my delays are there anyway, and then he's delaying.
You never wear blue. Like, I thought, I'm going to grab a blue shirt and I'll compliment you, but I thought she's...
So see, you're the reason of this whole distraction. See, he's distracting me.
Thanks, Tabitha.
Okay. So there is a pattern to it. So every quarter has like 5 picture studies or something like that.
Okay.
Every quarter has, so many psalms, so many proverbs, so many poems, so many readings. So there's a definite pattern to it. Children really thrive with patterns, but patterns can also get boring. And that's why there's variety within the patterns within this course, because I didn't want to overload with the same exact thing every single week. So we don't want the exact same pattern. So there's variety within the patterns. So this usually after they do if they're doing a picture study psalm, they're going to continue on. In level 2's case, that day's work is, let's see, it's on this page. That day's work involves memorization, the long U sounds, syllables. It's going to be something obviously a little different from that in level 2. So there's usually some additional work that they're going to do once they complete their picture study or whatever extra feature they're doing that day.
Okay.
Then the next day, they're going to go over and start working on the nuts and bolts of grammar, punctuation, that sort of thing. So we have here action verbs in level 2 is the next day. Level 3, they're working on commas. So they spend the next couple of days really diving into the nuts and bolts of the English language. But what I try to do is have them write something. So here they're doing action verbs and they're learning all about action verbs, and then they write a sentence using action verbs, because I find it very frustrating when curriculum teaches grammar but isolates it from actual writing. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, we're not learning about grammar and commas and all these things just so that we can identify them.
Right.
We're learning about them so that we're using them properly when we communicate, when we write, when we speak. And another thing is to add interest to our writing. So if we understand what a verb is, then we understand we can learn what an adverb is, and we can start describing our verbs. Well, if we don't learn what a verb is, it's kind of hard to learn how to describe them. So grammar builds upon itself, but it's with a purpose. Mm-hmm. It doesn't do us any good to learn all of this stuff and not actually apply it. And so I always try to add some sort of application where the student is writing something and applying what they've learned.
Yes.
So we've talked about day 2 and 3, and they're getting a little bit of writing practice in there. And then we go to day 4. Now, in level 2, it's a little bit different because what we did in level 2 is we just have them, like this one is write a psalm. So they've learned about psalms, and now they're going to write their own. And we get some of the most wonderful psalms that people post that their kids wrote in the group. Those make my day. I love seeing those things. So it's a bit of a creative writing day. Now, level 3, 4, and 5, on that day, they're going to work in that 101 Bible stories. and they're going to do some reading. There's some reading comprehension. There's some questions about the reading, and then they're going to do some drawing. And even in here, they have a chance to draw their stories. So why drawing in a language arts course? Shouldn't that be in art? Well, the reason that we have drawing in there, number one, it's wonderful for handwriting. The hand-eye coordination is fantastic. It's a really good exercise for hand-eye coordination for those who struggle with their handwriting. Another thing is they are paying attention to a picture. So they're studying the details. And what they don't know while they're studying these details is they're drawing in all sorts of information into their mind that they can later pull from when they're writing their stories.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one of the characters has a nice blue shirt.
Yes.
They might not even realize when they're writing and they suddenly describe a character that has a blue shirt.
That matches his wife's shirt.
Right. They might not realize where they got that from. But they're getting very rich images to study and to draw from later when they're doing their own writings. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's done on the 4th day. And on the 5th day is spelling.
Explain spelling a little bit. We may have some more questions, but.
Yes. Okay. So the 5th day, here's a spelling exercise. The 5th day is always spelling. So I put all the spelling exercises on day 5, and I did that to make it a little easier for the mom who has her own favorite spelling. Here's the thing about spelling. You can't please anybody when it comes to spelling. So when it comes to language lessons, I've heard people complain that the words are too easy. I've also heard people complaining that the words are too hard. There's not enough. There's too much. They're all over the place. So the reason that it's like that is because our kids are all over the place. In my experience, my children are born either natural spellers or not. And we've used the same exact phonics program, the same exact everything, and they come out completely different in their abilities.
Right.
And so I want flexibility. So if you need to just say, don't do day 5, we're going to use our own spelling program, that's completely fine. If you need your kid to go a little bit slower, you can pull out all the day 5s and assign those whenever you want.
Because so you could actually be doing spelling on Monday. You could start spelling on Monday and do like a test on Friday, like a lot of us were used to approach. You can use it as a tool. A lot of people do that, but the reason that it's on day 5 is so that it can be pulled out and done at any rate without the parent trying to comb through the rest of the material to try to find all this information. Right.
And so, yeah, you can jump ahead and assign them that way. It's best done lockstep with the program because the words are related to the things that they're actually studying. Yeah. However, it is designed to be flexible, and we do encourage you to make the curriculum your own. Mm-hmm. So I do recommend that if you want to test and you want to work on those things all week long, absolutely. There's a lot of different activities that are built into the spelling week. Plus, there's more games and ideas in the back of the book that you can be doing all throughout the week.
Right.
So some people will introduce the spelling on Mondays and they'll work on it all week long and finish it up on Fridays. Some people will introduce the spelling on Friday and then that's what they work on all of the next week.
Okay. Resources in the back.
Yes. There's all sorts of fantastic resources in the back. I highly recommend that you study them before you even begin the course because there's just so much there. None of it is required. None of it is referred to because I don't want people thinking they have to do it. They do not.
But it's how you can add some meat where you feel it's needed.
Yes.
Because you're the teacher.
Because, yes, I am the teacher.
Yes.
So we start off with an alternate way to do assessments. And so you have your daily schedule and it has the reviews, and it has where you can, write down grades if you want. But if you want an alternate way of assessing where your student is, we give that alternative assessment.
Okay.
So that's in the back. That's a really good way for record keeping too. It's a little bit more detailed, and it also helps you track what they've mastered and what they still need to work on.
Yep.
But also, I should back it up a step. Also, it also gives you a grading scale. So if you're just not sure how to grade your student, this is a scale to go by. So if you need to, for your state, you need to give an A, B, C, D kind of a grade. This gives you a guide on how you can grade your students' work.
Jessica McGregor joined just so. Jessica,
oh,
she
Jessica, I
you.
blamed you for being late. I'm
she threw
sorry.
you under the bus.
I did. I said Jessica sent me a link, and I got distracted by it. But the truth was, I was listening to that, but I got distracted because I was packing for my scrapbook meeting next week. Okay, and I'm really I have to apologize. I have to blow my nose. It's because of my chemo treatments. I'm coming off of a cold. That's all stuffed up, but now I have.
Well, let me give you the marketing speak on the series. So. Kristen is my wife, and we've been in homeschool curriculum business for a number of years. We started with our youngest when she was like in 2nd grade,
Yes.
And we were buying a lot of curriculum, and it turned into a way to actually generate some revenue. And so we started a curriculum business, which we sold to Christian Book Distributors in 2010.
Yes.
We worked with a lot of major curriculums. We worked with BJU and ACE, Alpha and Omega, the Jensens at the time. We had access to all the major, Shirley, English, all of them.
Daily Graham.
And we dealt with probably 20,000 customers, and they would explain to us, we knew from our own experience, we had 9 kids in homeschooling, what was working, what wasn't, what were the friction points. Every curriculum had kind of a highlight, and then they had the lowlights. And didn't make any sense, but they had kind of the highlights, and then they had the not so great points.
Yes.
And so Kristen came in to be
not only that, but we led the Leah chapter homeschool group.
Yes.
Homeschool support group. So we were always asked about different curriculums, even in that.
And you had mentored different people in a lot through the years. So when Kristen came into Newly Publishing Group and Master Books, one of the things that she did is start looking at the hybrids of everything that works. We knew what we really loved about the ACE School of Tomorrow program. We knew what we loved about all these different programs. This is kind of a hybrid of the what works, and it uses
what worked with our own kids.
Right.
Whether it was there was some things I just had to make something up.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't anything out there that did what my kids needed it to do.
Right. There's a Charlotte Mason influence to it, and that it has some living component with the stories and the pictures and stuff like that. But the reality of that is it brings in the whole brain. It's more than just studying grammar from text. It's actually using real life examples and then tying in the whole brain. So there's that component. There's a common sense approach to, we've been homeschooling for 25 years. There's a lot of that brought into it of when you've been at this a while, some of this stuff that's there sounds good in theory, but the reality, it doesn't work. And so let's cut that out and do what works to teach what needs to be taught.
Absolutely.
It doesn't need to compete against the programs that are already out there. They're already there. It was a new solution designed for families that are in that spot where they need a grammar solution. They need to teach their kids the joy of communication through the written word and doing it from multiple points. So that's the marketing speak on it. Now,
are you ready for me to finish the back of the book?
Oh, you're still in the back of the book?
I'm still in the back of the book.
Go
I
ahead.
haven't
Go ahead.
gotten past
Go for
that.
it.
Okay, level.
Well, you were blowing your nose. That's
Well, yes.
Okay.
We got distracted by that. I'm sorry. I can't help that. It's a chemo thing. My nose runs like this for at least another week. Okay, so level 2 does have some quizzes in the back because we didn't include quizzes because grade 2 is just kind of young for that. But some people are required to actually, have quizzes and stuff for their state. So we did include some in the back. Now let me just pause here. When it comes to the reviews that are at the end of each quarter, if you use those as quizzes and tests, I highly recommend that you allow the student to use open book and to be able to use the grammar study sheets in the back of the book. Because when we don't know how to do something, what do? We look it up on our phone. And so it develops that pattern of helping the student look up what they can't remember. And they're going to be covering this material over and over every single year. All grammar programs do that because kids will put that in the part of their brain that remembers it for here and now, but it doesn't make it to the long-term part of the brain. And it takes a lot of repetition to get it there, which is why it gets repeated. Okay, so there's a place where you can record the books that you're going to read independently. That's a big part of your reading, is kids just reading. And so we have a place that you can record the books that they're reading. There's also reminders throughout to assign your kids for the week their independent reading books. We have a recommended book list of all the master books, but of course you can use anything that you want. There's the Create Your Own Dictionary master pages. We also have a download that you can print those off. Just a little explanation of that Create Your Own Dictionary. The Create Your Own Dictionary is not based on the spelling words because it is a vocabulary type of exercise, vocabulary and even a little bit of spelling, but it's an extension, it's in addition, it's to broaden their experience with words.
It's almost like notebooking for words.
Yes.
I
like that.
I
like that.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
We kind of just discovered a new buzzword. We do notebooking, grammar notebooking.
Grammar notebooking.
Yeah, so for all you notebookers out there, now you can say you actually know of a language program that utilizes notebooking. There are some people that we didn't appreciate that.
Yes. So they're going to come across things in their dictionary pages, words that they've never been exposed to, because I think that it's important for kids to learn, okay, this is a word I've never seen before. I don't know how to read it. I don't know what it means. What do I do with that? And so it's a fun way to encounter those types of words.
I like that, encounter. It's nice too.
And to learn how to pronounce it, what it means, and to jot down a simple meaning. It's a really good expansion activity. And one thing that's really kind of funny is the parents that are shocked by the kids who actually love doing the dictionary pages.
Yeah.
So that's always fun to see. So there's activities and games. So the alphabet memory matching game, a lot of these are games that we have encountered. I Spy, Simon Says, but the directions show you how to teach the alphabet, nouns, adjectives, observation, days of the week, months of the year, memory, syllables. These are just a few of the things that are covered by these games. So if your kid's having trouble with irregular plural nouns, the focus is put at the top of the page. So all you have to do is flip through it and find the areas that you're looking for and play some games. And those are there for those trickier type concepts that your student may struggle a little bit with, rather than put in 20 more sentences for your student to identify nouns in. I didn't want to, number one, bog down every single student with that. And for the students that need that extra, I wanted to make it fun, because if you're struggling to learn something, doing more of the same, it's like it brings tears for the kid and for the mom. Like, those are long days. I would much rather say, you know what, let's play a game. Let's do something that's going to approach it in a little bit different way, instead of just, okay, you're not getting it with the way we've been doing it, so let's give 20 more of the same. Let's not do that. So let's go to the back of the book. For those kids that need that extra practice, go to the game, see if you can find anything that'll work. Okay, there's a whole thing on spelling practice, extra things that you can do for spelling. And we also have the spelling list. Somebody had asked about spelling. I didn't catch all of it, but she was wanting for a kid that's struggling. I wouldn't, if a kid can't get it, I would just keep track of the words that they're still struggling with and incorporate them into daily writing rather than just stopping. Because some kids just struggle with spelling. So we also have all the spelling words in the back. So as they master them, you can just check them off if you'd rather do it that way. And just go back on the ones that aren't checked off, keep working on them. There's the sight words in the back. There's some copy work. Again, a lot of it's on stuff that the kid might have a little, need that extra practice with. There's calendar study sheets in level 2, and then there's the grammar study sheets. I think around 4th grade we alphabetize them so that they can look them up, but up to that point we put them in the order that they are encountered because kids that age have trouble looking things up alphabetically. So all of that is reviewed in the back plus the answer key. So there you go. There's the back of the book.
I think it's fitting. 35 years ago, if you can believe it or not, you and I sat together in school next to each other. She was a goody two-shoes who was a couple grades ahead of me, even though I was older than her. And I was only allowed in the school because I was the pastor's kid and I had exception. But it's fitting that you actually wrote a grammar course and I do the mouth work and you do the brain work. So why do you need to know English for that student who wants to know? Well, in your life, there's going to be grammar police, and it's the only way to keep them off your back. Number 2, you may marry somebody who actually writes a grammar course, believe it or not, and you may have to be able to talk the talk, even if you don't walk the walk. So,
It's true.
Okay, we have a fair amount of questions. So these are rapid fire.
Oh boy.
That means like 180 words, characters or less.
All right, let's go.
Okay. What is your favorite part of the series? Picture study, vocabulary, dictionary. What's your favorite part?
It's the writing prompts. I like the variety. I like giving my students sometimes they're a picture that the student can draw off of. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a story. Sometimes it's something that they're going to write about themselves. I like those.
Okay.
I think they're fun.
Are there reading books? Somebody said there's a recommended reading list in the back of the book.
Yes, those are the master books. 4 books, if you want. I use them for my kids. Or you can just use your own bookshelf, let them go and pick off. Our family tends to like missionary stories, so we like the YWAM series.
Right. They also enjoy some of the other series that are still out there. From CBD has a number of those stories.
Oh yeah, CBD has a lot of them.
Okay, a student who doesn't like copy work, it frustrates him.
I would limit it. I would go gentle with it.
Okay.
So, I think it's important. I think what I would do is I would give incentive. I would say, okay, you only have to do 1 sentence or whatever it is, whatever parameter you're setting, but it has to be really good.
What's the logic behind copy work?
It teaches the student how a sentence should look. It gives them that practice of understanding sentence structure and that sort of thing. It gives them handwriting practice. It also builds their stamina for writing.
And for younger students, it builds their memorization.
Yes.
To be able to look at something, memorize it, write it down. It actually is very beneficial. Some people think it's just busy work, but it's actually brain building. It
is brain building. And that's why I wouldn't just stop it, but I would give incentives. I wouldn't do anything less than a sentence.
Okay. Student who's not a good speller, how can you become a better speller?
All right. That's a tough one because they graduate to spell check. That's the short answer.
Yeah.
But how I personally do it is I have 2 boys right now that are basically doing actually I have 3 that are doing the same levels right now of language lessons. And one is a really good speller and the one is not. And how I approach spelling is they both do the same things. The student who doesn't spell well, when he doesn't know how to spell a word, he asks me how to spell it. And I spell it for him. Sometimes if it's a big word, I chunk it up. I chunk it up in ways that he can learn how to spell that word. So little clues. And then if it's a smaller word though, he's at the age now, he's older, so I can just spell the whole thing and it helps build his memory.
Okay. If the student goes through the whole series 1 through 6, is that enough to move them into the high school level courses?
No, because they still have to do grade 7th and 8th. So they can move into wherever they're at in writing strands.
It would move them forward.
It would prepare them for grade 7th and 8th.
The scope and sequence is the same scope and sequence you're going to see in other curriculums. It just is it's not an apples to apples comparison.
Right. One of the things that I focus heavily on is developing a good paragraph. Now you're going to have students that are just phenomenal writers and they're going to run away. They want to write 10 paragraphs for every writing opportunity.
They become editors.
You say that with disdain.
Because in marketing for the web,
you want all your marketing put out there, like things that are misspelled, like I recently caught that you've been using. I won't.
That was one word. That would have been in the spelling.
On a very major thing.
I know, and it was a designer that did it.
And it is marketing. It's marketing's designer.
Okay, keep it against me.
Yeah, so you want to go there here. Okay. What were we talking about?
It being enough.
No.
Kids writing.
Oh, the writing. So get them their own notebook and let them answer it that way. But what we did, or what I did in this is I want to develop by the end of 6th grade the ability to write a really good paragraph, because if you can't write a good paragraph, you can't write a good essay. So what's the point in learning all the mechanics of an essay if you don't even have a good paragraph down? And I just found that so many of my average kids or less than average kids got to 6th grade and they still weren't, no matter what I used, they still weren't putting together a good paragraph. You know, maybe they formed their sentences really well, but they were pretty boring. They were using the same words, just changed a little bit in each sentence. They weren't engaging. So let's really learn how to write a good paragraph before we jump into papers. And so what I would like to see happen is for a student to end with 6, ready to start learning how to do essays in 7th and 8th grade, which prepares them for writing papers in high school.
Okay. I'm wondering how grammar lessons progresses from level 1 to 6. I've observed that it's a little slow compared to other books, but I do not mind as long as by the end of grade 6, my son is able to express himself grammatically correct, both verbally and in writing. If I could just say one thing that we notice, a lot of times people will come from a program that's more traditional in nature, something that they're familiar with, say in a public school setting or a classroom. And they'll look at a program that's more Charlotte Mason, like in homeschool, we have a lot of room to be creative. And they'll say, well, this isn't as substantial as this. It is, it's just a different method because it's not stuck in that traditional box. And so you're teaching the same concepts at the same times. You're just using more creative methods to teach it.
Yes. And we don't go into super complex grammar. I don't think it's necessary in the elementary grades. They're covering the 8 parts of speech. They're diving into direct objects and that sort of thing by the end of it all. But they're not, even if they can get it while they're doing it, they're not going to remember it long enough for it to be practical. So let's get the important things down before we get too complicated.
Build the foundations.
Yes.
Aniston says, just wanted to say we love it. Hope you're doing well and keeping you in our prayers.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd love to know exactly where my child, what exactly should my child know to prepare for language lesson 1? We're halfway through foundation phonics and he's having issues sounding out words. Sometimes he likes to guess.
That's pretty typical. Slow down if you need to. Take your time, get through it. Reading sometimes is a marathon, not a sprint, and it's all about readiness. So even if you had to set it aside for a while, that's okay too. But I would continue working through it. And we did have somebody also ask where they need to be. They've come from a different program, that sort of thing. So you definitely want your student to be able to read CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant words. But I wanted to show you by the end, they are starting to read the Jesus Loves Me song. Now, they might not be able to sit down and have the stamina to get through that in one reading. Not every student by the end of Foundations Phonics will have the stamina to get through the entire thing at once, but they should be able to at least get through a couple sentences of it. So you want them to have that stamina. Here's another page that they're reading, but a lot of it, are repeating words, so it shouldn't be all that challenging. So they should be at the point where they're able to read these types of words. So that's what they're doing by the end of Foundations Phonics. Now they are going to be studying a lot more phonics in level 1.
It continues on building on the phonics and the reading.
Right, but I would want them able to read basic sight words and be able to sound out words and read those shorter words, and have the stamina that they can read at least a sentence or two at a sitting.
Okay. Jennifer Vickner says, my good writer will never be an editor. His writing is creative and flows, but mechanically a mess, bad spelling, punctuation, spacing, etc. Jennifer, if I could give you encouragement, what your good writer may become is a person who owns a publishing company that hires editors to do that work for him. We have such a boss who is not necessarily the best speller, and probably he hires people to do the editing. So just because he can't do it doesn't mean he can't hire somebody who can.
It doesn't mean you should throw it all out the window. One thing that I've had to do with my students who were similar to that is to say to them, you do want people to understand what you're trying to say. You have a gift for saying things.
Right.
But if you don't learn how to put them into a form that people can read it, then nobody's going to read anything that you have to say.
Right. I agree. It's an encouragement, right?
Yes.
Because not everybody, we all have different strengths and different weaknesses.
Right.
And I think sometimes we worry so much about the weaknesses that we don't focus on the strengths. And
Right.
my point is that, it may not be his strength, but leadership and entrepreneurship and financial or whatever could be the strength. Just to be encouraged encourage them to do the best they can in everything they're doing, but don't overstress.
Right. I wouldn't stress about it. I just keep at it. I would just, keep at the spelling, keep at the spacing, just, the reminders of it. And I wouldn't apply that to every single thing he writes. I would be very targeted. So, okay, you wrote a paragraph, or even if he writes a whole page, let's look at this one paragraph. How can we improve it?
Yeah. My daughter will be in 3rd grade this fall, and I'm planning to get her book 3 and switch to MB. Mass books. She loves to write stories. Will there be plenty of opportunity for write with this curriculum?
Yes, there's plenty of opportunities, but a writer that just loves to write, you're going to need a notebook because there's not going to be enough space. And the reason I didn't include enough space for those that really want to write is because it's overwhelming for the average kid that struggles. The average kid, writing takes a little bit to learn. And so I don't want a whole page of lines for them to fill in and have them get overwhelmed. It's easier for a kid like that just to get a notebook and to put their writing in a notebook.
Okay. When a student is writing, do you recommend telling them to spell words how they think they are spelled, even if it's initially wrong, or should you correct them and spell it for them if they ask?
I prefer myself. I prefer to have the student ask me how to spell a word and have them write it and see it correctly rather than write it wrong. Now, when my older kids were in school, they would write it wrong, or I'd tell them to go look it up in the dictionary. And then I would make them erase it and rewrite everything correctly. But I've kind of changed in that. Having them look it up in the dictionary quickly fell away but I did that way too long with way too many kids. But that did fall away because how can a kid look it up if they don't know how to spell it? And it's just, they're never going to ask if they know they have to look it up in the dictionary.
Sure.
So I prefer that they ask me how to spell a word. And in today's day and age, they can ask Siri if you're so inclined. But I prefer, that's how I do it especially with my son that struggles with spelling. I want him to ask me because I want him to get used to, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find the answer. And so that's how he finds the answers. He asks me.
Okay. Jesse says, just want to say my 5-year-old is currently doing basic language skills, and because she's young, we decided to do language lessons for living education 1 as a review when she's done. I showed her the preview pages and she's so excited. She loves the accompanied books and is happy to do them again. But the colored pages in the format of language lessons one thrilled her. She kept saying, oh, thank you for buying that for me. Oh, thank you, Master Books. All 4 of my children love their curriculum now. That's awesome.
And you can see a sample of that online.
Yes. Let's see. Okay, I probably won't be around for the live. I'm currently using Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. What should we use after that?
I would look at the placement guide, but you're probably ready to go into language lessons 1.
Okay. I think the next question kind of asks that. And there's a readiness guide on the website. I would look at that anytime you're stepping into the program, not from the beginning with Master Books, because we're so heavy on skill base. Go that direction.
Even when you're going from language lessons into writing strands, I still suggest that you take the writing strands test, readiness test.
For a student that's gifted, again, if your student's gifted, use the readiness test in place.
Yes, but I think the writing itself on that one.
So the reading is ahead, but the writing.
Yeah, I would go by the writing.
Okay.
By the writing level. You can always give more challenging books for him to be reading, or her. I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl, but I would go by their writing, because really that's what you're teaching. It's doing reading and grammar and handwriting, because they're actually writing. It's teaching all of those things and spelling, but primarily you're talking reading and handwriting. And reading is a lot, not handwriting, but writing. Reading is a lot easier to separate and just give more advanced books. So I would definitely go on the writing ability.
Okay.
Stamina, ability, all of that.
Okay. Couple praise, not a question. Wanted to share with you, Kristen, how excited we are for level 1's release. It looks beautiful and so fun. Can't wait to watch this afternoon. Jashana says, no question, but I love how level 6 looks. Can't wait to get started on it. Thanks so much for your hard work in the series. I pray you are blessed by it as you have blessed us who use it. Okay. Here, son is 8, level 3. He's adamant about doing the minimum necessary when writing sentence or paragraphs. Is this just a boy, or should I slow him down and write? Encourage him to write creative stories with focus on sentences and paragraph structure, or just let it go?
I think it's pretty common. My boys will do the minimum as well. Yeah. Some days, if there's a lot going on, I just let it slide. But if you can somehow build rewards in for doing something really well, that helps. I would encourage them, like if they just really do a bad job, just make them go back and do the assignment over again. It's not too much to ask. So we're not talking that they're being overtaxed and overburdened in this curriculum. So what they do, they need to do well.
Sometimes you can go outside the box a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember in school, I wrote a paper on something completely different and handed it to the teacher. Had nothing to do with schoolwork, but it just interested me. And she made a big deal about that because she saw that I could write, even though I wasn't interested in writing what they told me to write. I was real interested in writing about war airplanes.
And that's okay too. If a student isn't connecting with the right writing prompts given, those are just to help. So it's perfectly fine if you want to change the assignment to something that they're interested in. However, I would still have them write occasionally on things that they're not interested in, because that's more realistic of life. So you're always running that balance of catering to everything, really helping them grow in areas that they're inclined and naturally go. But we run the risk of making life appear that it caters to us and creating little narcissists. So, we want to avoid that. And we want to teach them how to overcome things that are a struggle as well. So find that balance in there that works for your son or your daughter and your family.
Starting level 1, never used language lessons before. Any advice?
Just understand that this is not your typical program, language arts program. It wasn't written for a classroom, so it's entirely different. So really look through it ahead of time, read all the front matter. It's got a lot of important information in it. We did add back matter to language lessons 1 that was different from basic language skills. So look through everything, really understand the program, come in and ask your questions, either the app or into the Mom Semester books if you don't understand something.
Yes. Okay. I'm using language lessons for living education with a 7th grader in level 5. He's done levels 3 and 4. He's still struggling to recall all the terms when asked in the review sections. Is it okay to use a reference sheets for him?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts if he can apply the information and communicate thoughts and ideas but can't recall the terminology?
I wouldn't care if he couldn't recall the terminology as long as he can apply it. Now, there are some English teachers and grammar Nazis out there that are right now gasping for breath, but you honestly do not have to be able to diagram a sentence and know all the terms and be a really good writer. So you have to know what's the purpose of learning grammar. The purpose of learning grammar isn't just to stuff a bunch of terms into our head. It's to make us better writers and better communicators. So if the writing is improving and they can't remember certain terms, if they don't know, if they can't name what a direct object is, but they can use it properly, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think we need to train our children for education like we're preparing them for life and teaching them how to navigate life. And it's not uncommon for us as adults to have cheat sheets, something that reminds us. I've got all of our extensions on my bulletin board right above my desk. And I've got different passwords. I don't know all my passwords, so I've got a book for passwords. I have the information that I need to access readily available, and I use these cheat sheets to help me navigate. Teaching our kids that same concept, that whatever you call it, but that's life.
And there's grammar
notes and having notes, and
there's books that have
that we use guides,
style guides, everything. I mean, they're used in high school, they're used in colleges, they're used by adults who are constructing a business. I mean, now we look everything up online.
Yeah.
But there are, there's books for that, and now there's websites for that tell you how to do something. Sometimes I'm just writing and I just have one of those moments where my brain just disappears. That was even before the chemo. Suddenly something that you've always just known, suddenly you can't remember these 2 words. Which one do I use here? I can't remember. What do? I look it up.
Right. How important is your kids know the language terminology, parts of a sentence, if they can compose sentences in a decent manner? The only thing they really need to work on is proper punctuation and setup. I
think understanding it, teaching it is important. But if the kid can't recall all the bits and pieces, it's the same as the other question. I wouldn't stress about it. They need to understand what a subject is, what a predicate is, so that they're writing complete sentences. And they might encounter it on a standardized test. Honestly, that's the biggest reason that they should know it, is because when they take a standardized test, they need to know it. Outside of that, probably not all that important. Other than
college entrance.
No, not for college entrance. It's just to understand how a sentence is put together.
Right. Yeah. If they can write well, that's what they need to be able to do, is convey
Yes.
ideas for like a college entrance.
Yes.
Any suggestions on what to do with our Love Master books when they're completed? We love the books, but with multiple children, it's hard to find room for all these treasures over the course of the K-12 program. The books show their work, progress, and memories. I do have a suggestion. Do you?
Do you? Go for it. I want to hear your suggestion.
Pull out your smartphone and snap a picture. Edit it and put a little note in there that says JJ's Psalm or whatever. I've been doing that more and more with the kids' stuff, because now you have that program that you put on that will download all my pictures and put them up. And it's an easier way to actually remember the highlights than trying to. I'll never go through those bins of books. Right?
That's what I do. I toss them all into a bin and I'll deal with them another day.
Yeah.
Every school year has a bin, and it has all the kids' work in it. And
I have a folder of all the things the kids give me, and unfortunately I didn't always mark who gave me what and when, and it's hard because I wish I did know that now. With the camera, I can actually capture that, and I just like seeing. What's the program? Forever is a software that she used to bring in all of her pictures, and there's an app on my phone, so when I go onto it downloads all my photos into the app, and we can share it with other family members. So that's how you can highlight.
It's a good idea.
There's some.
I knew there was a better way out there.
Okay.
That's awesome.
My son is almost 6. He reads well after using Horizons K. I'm planning on getting Language Lessons 1 for first grade using a full year plan, skipping Foundation Phonics. She can tell it's going to be review as well as the math level 1, but she's not sure he's ready for level 2, especially in the math. My plan was to kind of let this year be a review and really hone in on what we learned in K. I feel like we're kind of between levels. Any advice on that plan? First year homeschooling books.
I mean, I think what I would do is I would just kind of do your days where if he wants to do more in a day, let him. That gives a little bit of breathing room. It lets him work on the things that really interest him. You could do, okay, we're going to work for 20 minutes and then whatever he gets done in that time he does. You could skip the things that just don't interest him that he really understands and gets.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just takes the pressure off the year.
Something else, tell me if this makes sense. I don't know. So I'm pitching it for this first time, and I may actually get shot down hard. You may witness that live.
Oh, brother.
I think Foundation
Phonics.
Maybe a little bit. I could have gone into marketing or acting. Marketing paid more. At least at my quality of acting. Okay. Foundation's Phonics.
Yes.
I think there's actually enough content in there to use it like a Bible. And so for a first grade student in this spot, use the Foundation Phonics just for fun and as a Bible. Read the stories, that type of thing. We're talking, it's under $30 to buy it.
Yeah.
And get the review. Sneak in the review, even though he probably doesn't need it. It's probably a great reader, but you're going to get some really good Bible concepts out of it. So you could almost use Foundation Phonics as a morning basket, or use it as a use it for the first semester, just as, hey, we're going to do this to go through our letters again. You already know it, so it's going to be quick, but we're going to read just for that component and then move into the Language Lessons 1, even though it's review, or do it alongside.
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. It's got a lot of really good Bible stuff in it.
Good. Well, we're at 52 minutes. I didn't think we actually would do that. There's a lot of comments. You willing to go through the comments offline and answer any that need to be answered? And I will do that as well.
I'm torn on this. I would love to jump in there, but FedEx came today and there's stuff for the cabin, so I was going to see if that was something we wanted to do tonight. It was to run out to the cabin. But I can sit and I can answer questions.
There's internet
tonight
at the cabin, so while I do that, you could sit and do that.
Or we could wait till the rest of the stuff, the rocking chairs come in, and we could just do it all in one.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully this answered some questions. We're going to have more discussion about language lessons for living education. We'll be a little more focused on each level for a bit here over the next couple of weeks, just to help clarify what this course is and how it applies, because I think it's different enough that people who are coming from a traditional curriculum, or if you're coming from a very rigorous classical type approach, don't realize, oh, it's a Charlotte Mason approach, which means bite-size, review, whole brain learning, holistic, more of an approach. It's like the math. If I come from a very rigorous traditional math program and I come into math lessons for a living education, you have to realize that it's not apples to apples, it's apples to oranges. And they both accomplish, but there's different approaches.
Yeah, one of the reasons for the shorter lessons is many people find that when their kid is drinking from the hose, they're actually swallowing more than when they're drinking from the fire hose. And so that's not going to be the case for everybody, but for the average student, and what we're finding is the gentler lessons, the student is actually retaining more.
Well, it's a common sense approach that I believe comes from experience of parenting and homeschooling for a number of years. But also, as I've taught in other teaching tips, scientifically it can be backed as well.
Yes.
That students who start off a little gentler actually accelerate at a higher rate as they reach levels, grades 4 or 5, versus students who are pushed a little bit too early on, and then hit those levels and actually regress a little bit. So there's merit to it. And I think for us, as we watch the feedback in the market, and this series is newer, so learning just how to explain it in a way that people have realistic expectations of how it works, and that is what we're really trying to do, which is why we love questions, and because that gives us an opportunity to explain the why we did what we did.
And I think when you remove the stress, then the student's mind is able to receive it. We have kids in there that hated writing, and suddenly they're writing these beautiful poems, and the moms are shocked because they never thought their kid would ever even want to write something like that,
right,
let alone do a fabulous job like they've done. And so that's really exciting to see, because that's what we want. We want kids to develop a love for writing. And, that's choked out sometimes in our passion for them to learn grammar and punctuation and get them to write papers. And we don't want that to happen. We want them to love writing.
We've been around homeschooling for a long time, and we've seen a lot of families hit this spot where they've tried to keep up with other families. They've tried to do these curriculums that just weren't a good fit. Mom is at her end and burnout. The students are fighting, and there's just friction. Dad comes home, mom's locked in the basement. He thinks bathroom, basement,
I know,
closet.
it's always funny.
She's usually hiding wherever the kids aren't, is where she's hiding. Dad thinks she's crazy. The mother-in-law is interfering. There's just so many things. And so many times it comes down to just a little bit of a change. And what we love about what Master Books gives us the opportunity to do is to create product that we know can be plugged in, and that moms can do with multiple kids. You were homeschooling 6 kids at one time because of the ages. So you had 6, and we were in a difficult state. So you had to do all the reporting, all the testing, all the quarterlies, everything. And we had special needs. I mean, it was a tough deal. Those complicated curriculums, you want it, you love it, but it's like it was designed for a classroom.
But our kids learn far more through Master Books than what they ever did in any of those other. They learned really well to pass a test, but they weren't learning for life. I mean, they did learn some, there was the stuff that they were interested in.
Right.
But I was always switching up, trying to find something that would, meet that kid's needs. I was always, I was very eclectic and still am, except now I have all these great series of master books and I don't need to go looking to all these other curriculums. Now, believe me, if something isn't working for my kid comes first before using master books. Absolutely. But as the years have gone by, my kids have just naturally gone into more and more master books because it's the best. It's what I would choose for them. And they're just learning so much more.
Yeah.
For life.
We've seen where families were ready to put their kids back in school, and we would sit there and we would beg them. In fact, there were a few times where we actually even purchased curriculum for their families if they were on the rocks and just said, you're about to make this decision that's going to have this major impact on your family, possibly for generations. If you would just try a solution that might be a little more tailored to your situation, and all of a sudden their families began to flourish.
Right.
There's nothing more exciting than that. And so that's really what we have the opportunity to do and what we're trying to do, and what we're excited about. There's a lot of really cool projects on the horizon, and I'm stoked about what the future holds. So, well, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us, and
we'll start some more thorough.
Yeah, we'll go into some more depth with some of the other programs. We can do
each level.
6. I don't think we've done a video for 6 to really walk through, so I'd like you to do a walk through that and then move right into level 1, because I think that needs some explaining with the marriage between foundation phonics. And so and thank you for your feedback and your questions, and we look forward to connecting with you guys in the future. Hey, God bless y'all.